Yo, we're diving straight in today because, man, some major breaking news just dropped literally moments ago, and I mean major. Sean Diddy Combs has just been denied bail again. Yep, you heard that right. He's staying behind bars until his sentencing on October 3rd. That's locked in. No getting out till then. Now look, we're not just skimming headlines today. Now we're peeling back the layers on this thing because the judge's reasoning, it's tough. No fluff, just hard, unyielding legal logic. And honestly, it's kind of wild. This moment right here feels like a major shift in the whole case, like a turning point. And that's what we're here to unpack. Why the judge made this call, what it means for Diddy's future, and what the bigger picture could be. So let's break it down. This isn't the first denial, by the way, not even close. In fact, this is number 5, fifth time Diddy's asked to be released, and the 5th time he's been told nope. At this point, you think anything might change, but nope, the judge, rock solid, completely unmoved. And here's the kicker, the reasoning this time, it's not some big dramatic shift. It actually mirrors the same language you saw when that massive $50 million bail was set. What did the judge say exactly? Simple but strong.
Diddy failed to provide the burden of proof to justify his release. So here's what's really going on.
Diddy's legal team just couldn't get the judge to buy what they were selling. Bottom line, they failed to convince him that Diddy isn't a flight risk, or more importantly, a threat. That's huge. The judge flat out pointed to his criminal history and literally called him a potential danger to society. Those aren't small words, man. In any bail hearing, that kind of language is nuclear. Once that's on the table, it becomes a massive uphill battle for the defense. And look, this is the 5th time. 5th time. At this point, you've got to wonder, is the defense just slamming into a brick wall here? Like, what else do they have left in their playbook before October? Well, technically, they can keep trying. That's what lawyers do. You find any window, any crack in the wall, you push through, and we're hearing from inside sources that, yeah, they are absolutely planning to pursue other legal options. But come on, this repeated pattern of rejection, it sent the message, a clear one. The court's stance is getting harder, not softer. If you're in the defense camp, that's not where you want to be right now, not at all. And here's another twist. Judge Aaron's tone, it's personal. Reports say his comments after the jury's verdict were like, get this, described as a kick in the face to the jurors. Yeah, you heard that right. That is very strong language coming from a judge. It is not just cold legal analysis. That's emotional. It gives us a peek behind the robe, if you will, into how he's really feeling about this case and the people involved. Now look, it's not unheard of for a judge's opinion to differ from a jury's when it comes to sentencing or bail. That happens, but the way he came out swinging here, that's not business as usual. That's something else entirely. This whole situation highlights just how stark the conflict is between two completely different narratives. On one side, you've got the defense painting this as a case about consenting adults, willing swingers, escorts, mutual pleasure, all voluntarily. That's the picture they wanted the court to see, but the government, and now pretty clearly the judge too, they're buying none of that. Zero. They've got the opposite view entirely. The prosecution's narrative is about coercion, about women, Cassie and Jane Doe, being beaten, threatened, manipulated, victimized. So when the judge came down with his bail denial, it wasn't just about logistics or flight risk anymore. He directly referenced those allegations. We're talking coercion, beatings, aiding and abetting sex trafficking, all mentioned explicitly in the bail denial letter. And here's what makes that wild. Those weren't even charges Diddy was convicted of. The jury didn't find him guilty at all. But still, the judge brought him up, and that's key. Because in bail hearings, the judge can consider a broader scope than just the jury's verdict. He doesn't need a conviction to act on what he believes is a pattern of dangerous behavior. So basically he's saying, look, I respect the jury's take, but I've seen enough in this evidence to keep you locked up. That's strong. That's very, very strong. And then we hit the defense's curveballs. Man, they tried some surprising plays. One that really stood out, a letter from one of Diddy's ex-girlfriends. And get this is the same woman the prosecution had previously identified as victim number 3. Yeah, she had said back in a 2019 podcast that Diddy stomped on her chest. Not a figure of speech, literally. His assistant even backed that up, talked about seeing him throw apples at her during one of those incidents. So you'd think she'd be a key witness for the prosecution, right? But nah, plot twist. She recently submitted a letter on behalf of the defense, said she doesn't view Diddy as a danger to her or to society. Called him respectful, compliant, even cooperative. That's got to carry some weight, right? You think so? But guess what? The judge wasn't moved, not even a little. It didn't change a thing. Bail still denied. And that right there, that tells you everything about how deeply the judge is digging into the core of this case. He's not swayed by surface level moves. Even supportive testimony from a so-called victim, still not enough to shake his stance.
All right, so what else did the defense try? Because honestly,
it's starting to feel like they threw everything they could think of at the wall. One unexpected move, they claimed Diddy was being threatened inside prison. Yeah, allegedly he wasn't safe at the MDC, the Federal Detention Center in Brooklyn. The story goes some heavy hitters inside, big name inmates were targeting him. There was supposedly a whole incident, and the defense even filed a court document with an entire page redacted, like blacked out, top secret style, trying to make the case that Diddy's safety was at risk behind bars. The logic? Hey, he's not safe inside, so let him out on bail. But once again, didn't move the needle. The judge wasn't buying it. At this point, it really felt like nothing the defense threw out there was sticking. Not one thing. It was like watching someone throw darts at a bulletproof window. And then, man, this next part, it just shows how tight the courtroom dance really is. Apparently, Diddy himself tried to be nice during the proceedings. At one point, he actually interrupted just to tell the judge he was doing a great job. Yeah, you heard that right. Now, that might sound harmless, even respectful, but insiders say it may have backfired. Because if you tell a judge he's doing a great job, then later your team tries to argue he was biased or unfair, yeah, that's a tough sell. But the real shocker came from Diddy's own lawyer, his lead defense attorney, Mark Agnifilo. This is the guy who's supposed to be fighting for him, called Diddy violent. Straight up said the case was about domestic violence. Wait. His own lawyer said that? Yeah, in court. Let that sink in for a second. The guy defending you just gave the judge more fuel to deny you bail. It completely undercut their argument that Diddy wasn't a danger. Sources say this was one of the biggest missteps of the entire case. It might have tainted any last shred of hope they had for getting him out before sentencing. And it gets even more ironic because reports say Diddy's legal team kept telling him, stop talking, don't speak in court, don't chime in, just sit tight and let the pros handle it.
but between him praising the judge and his lawyer labeling him violent, the whole thing started looking like a courtroom self-sabotage. Man, what a mess. All right, so here's where things start to crystallize. The consensus right now, these repeated bail denials, they're not just procedural. They're setting the tone for what's coming next. Sources say Judge Aaron is, and I quote, pissed. Yeah, that's the word being used. And this ain't a judge who's playing around. From everything we're seeing, he's gearing up to hand down a very tough sentence. And why? It all comes back to that divide between the jury's verdict and the judge's interpretation of the broader picture. Remember, those allegations of coercion and abuse, the jury didn't convict Diddy on those, but the judge brought them up in the bail denial anyway. And that tells us something huge. It tells us the judge is likely going to push the sentence as far as he legally can for the convictions that did stick. So what's the prediction? Right now, the range being floated, 5 to 10 years. And that's not coming from nothing. It's based on the judge's repeated statements that Diddy is a danger to the public, that he can't be policed even under house arrest. So yeah, this latest bail denial, it's a big win for the prosecution, especially considering they didn't get convictions on the biggest charges. This gives them leverage, momentum. It shores up their position going into that October 3rd sentencing. So, what now? Well, the defense is expected to appeal the denial. That's pretty standard. But word is they're likely done pitching new bail packages. At this point, all eyes are on October. But listen, just because the trial part is wrapped, do not think this legal saga is anywhere near finished. Nope, because there's still a mountain of litigation coming down the pipeline. That Law Rodney case, yeah, the one involving Christina Coram, that's kicking off mid-October. New lawyers, new strategy, new courtroom. So the drama continues. But let's zoom out here, because this moment really raises a bigger, more important question for all of us watching. When a judge issues such strong personal reasoning, especially when it contradicts the jury's decision on key charges, what does that say about how we define justice? Think about it. Because here's the thing, justice isn't one verdict, one soundbite, one breaking headline. It's a process. And the judge's role in bail and sentencing, it's different. It's about assessing risk, looking at conduct, and interpreting the bigger picture. The jury's job is narrow.
guilty or not, based on specific charges and evidence. The judge, he gets to weigh everything else. And in this case, that gap, that disconnect is glaring. This isn't just about guilt or innocence anymore. It's about how the court sees Diddy, the individual, the totality of who he is and what they believe he's capable of. It's complex, it's uncomfortable, and it's absolutely necessary to understand if we want to make sense of how justice works, especially in high-profile cases like this. So yeah, this isn't over, not by a long shot. And as always, we'll be right here with you, breaking it all down piece by piece. Because there's one thing we've learned, the road to justice, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And this one, it's still unfolding. See you next time. And if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to our channel.